Hey everybody, it's Mark Yegge here, and I just want to talk about price to earnings ratios because a lot of people in covered calls are wondering, should I care about the price to earnings ratio? In fact, I have somebody in my program that says you need to have a low price to earnings ratio. And my basic premise is I used to invest that way, but I don't invest that way anymore. So stay tuned and we're going to talk about price to earnings ratio in this video. I want to talk about price to earnings ratio, and I'm not going to take much time on this today. You know why? Because I'm really tired and I've been kind of packing because I'm getting ready to go on a very long trip for 2 months. So I'm kind of trying to figure out all the stuff, but I thought I'd chime in and just kind of weigh in on price to earnings ratios because so many people ask me, hey, Mark, I'm doing covered calls. Why don't I just get a low price to earnings ratio? That way it's not overpriced for the market. Okay, well, there's some merit to that, and then maybe there isn't. When you get a really boring company, they have a really low price to earnings ratio. They're not growing very much. They're not accelerating their growth. They're not exciting anymore. And the premiums when in covered calls are pretty low because the volatility is so low. So to me, you have to have some kind of excitement with the company. And by the way, price to earnings ratio is the price divided by the earnings. Simple, right? Price to earnings. Price per share divided by the earnings per share or the profit per share. So the higher the price, the more you're going to pay for a company, essentially is what that's saying, is the higher the price to earnings ratio, the more expensive the company is. So when the market corrects, it corrects against those price to earnings ratios that are really high. I'm not sure I buy that. Maybe sometimes it's true, but the companies that are growing are the ones that have the stock charts that are going left to right are moving up because their price to earnings ratio, they're growing fast. And so they're at a premium. So let's take a look. I'm going to just share the screen here with you, and we're just going to run through maybe 3 stocks. So here is the first stock. It's General Motors. Now you can look at General Motors. It's in a sector that's, I don't know, not that exciting, especially the way General Motors is going about it. I mean, all the excitement in cars, the internal combustion engine is not where the excitement is anymore, right? It's in electric vehicles, it's in hybrid vehicles, it's in hydrogen and other things like that. So there's not a lot of excitement in this sector anyway, unless you're in electric. But if you want to look at this area right over here, where it says PE ratio, it's got a PE ratio of 5. That means you're paying 5 times earnings for General Motors. But take a look at this chart. We want our charts to go from lower left to upper right. We wanted to do it when we're doing covered calls, on a fairly consistent basis. Does this one look like it's going lower left to upper right? Not really. It doesn't look like it's doing anything. In fact, if you go back all the way to 2018, the stock is still at the same price it was in 2018. Okay, one argument is you could sell calls against it for 5 years, right? But you're not going to get much juice on it because it's just not exciting. But you could sell calls. It's got a little teeny weeny dividend that it pays, but it's not exciting. So you're going to sit there for a long time and just ride this thing out. And when it went to 60, you would have ridden it all the way back down to 34. Okay, that's fine. But now let's take a look at another one. So that's GM. What else should we do? Hey, let's look at Ford too, because Ford's in the same business. Looks like the same chart, right? Maybe it's a little higher than it was in 2018, but not much. It's a $12 stock, and it's boring, right? It does pay a 4.7% yield. So while you wait and you're collecting the juice on the stock, but I just don't like cheap stocks anyway. Anything under $100 for me is a no-no. But this price to earnings ratio is 7. Now I want to show you Apple. Apple, you got to admit, is a little more exciting stock, right? So take a look at Apple. Look at that. Now, in the 2018, if you look over on the left side of the chart, it was $40, and now it's 160, right? It's 4 times 400% return, right? That's better than the other ones. And look at it; it's lower left to upper right. That is the kind of chart that we want. And look at the price to earnings ratio. It's 28. It's 4 times what Ford is. Interesting. It's 4 times what Ford is, and it's also gone up 4 times. That's the kind of stock we want to write covered calls on, because covered calls are going to be bringing us in the juice that we want while we wait. Who cares about this 0.6% dividend? But the 28 is the PE ratio. Let me show you something else now. Let's talk about a stock that's a little bit more exciting, and it's in the tech business. Now look at this chart, right? This was at 60. Now it's at 160. The PE is 37, right? But this thing is breaking out. Now it's at a consolidation area in a profit-taking zone, but it's breaking out nicely. And you can see that it's just lower left to upper right for the most of this chart. Some is kind of sideways. So get out of your brain that you have to have all of the dots perfect, right? You want to get the probabilities in your favor, but I can tell you the price to earnings ratio is not one of those things that should be in your purview, right? It's good to know, but don't let it be the make or break part of your decision on that. Hey, if you like what we're doing here, give me a like, a subscribe. That would be really great. Trying to grow my subscribers on this channel so that I can put out more content like this. Give me, and hit the notification bell. And every once in a while, like if you saw last week, I put out a quickie on Facebook. And it was like, it was what was it, a 9% in 4 days or something like that, or 12%. And that, if you got a notification bell, you got a notification right when I put that video out and we published it, which is usually pretty quickly after we record it. So really appreciate the support. And by the way, if you've been here for a while and you like what we're doing, put it in the comments. And if you want me to do something else, put it in the comments. If you want to talk about something, have any questions, I love interacting with people in the comments as well. So I sell masterminds, I sell mentorship, but I really enjoy making these videos because I've gotten so many people like you that are like, this is really helping me understand covered calls, because there are so many free videos out there on covered calls. Anybody can do covered calls, right? It's not hard to do. It's what happens after you get into the covered call that makes the difference. And I always say you got to pick the right stock in the right market at the right spot on the chart, and then you squeeze the juice. If you don't have one of those four things working in your favor, you're really doing yourself a disservice when it comes to probabilities working in your favor. So make sure that what we just did tonight is talking about the right stock, price to earnings ratio. How does that help us decide what stock to be in? I think I debunked the fallacy of, you got to have a really low PE ratio to be in a stock. It doesn't really matter when it comes to what we do. We'd rather have a lower left to upper right chart. And then we want to collect that juice every week or every month anyway. So listen, thanks again for being here. I'll shut up now and I'll see you on the next video. Take care. Hi, Mark Yegge here, wealth architect and author of this book on my covered call investing system called the Cash Flow Machine. Listen, what you just saw is just one part of creating reliable income of 2 to 4% a month from the stock market. But if it were that easy, then everyone would do it, right? If you want to learn how I create investment income the right way, then you need to learn and have a system with rules and what-if strategies so that you can learn what I do when the market goes against me, what I do when the stock goes against me, how to adjust my trade so that it's always in a winning position, how much to risk, how to build a multi-million-dollar portfolio that creates income of $10,000, $20,000, or $30,000 a month in semi-passive income. And best of all, the whole cash flow machine system takes less than an hour a week to implement. Just go to cashflowmachine.io to learn more, or click this link for more videos, masterclasses, and free resources. See you there.